In this section, I'm going to teach you how to write the single most important part of your copywriting, which is headlines. We have a quote here from Don Belding. Inquiry returns show that the headline is 50 to 75% of the advertisement. That's why headlines should get a disproportionate amount of attention and should be the one thing that perhaps you test more than any other piece of copy. To give you an example of this, in my early years, I wrote this piece of copy, this headline that went very viral and resulted in a product that was so popular it ended up getting pirated all around the world. And here's the copy. How to run a web design business and sell websites for $15,000 each. Now later I'm going to get into the details of what makes for a successful ad, but to give you a quick preview here, first thing that I did here was I put how to as the beginning of the headline. Very important thing. The other thing is I'm appealing to the audience's self-interest. They'd like to learn how to run a web design business, and they'd certainly like to be able to sell their websites for $15,000 each. Another key thing here is that I've called out the audience within the headline. I'm calling out web designers, the people that would be potential buyers for the product that I'm selling, and I'm being specific. By saying specifically $15,000, the ad is more believable, the headline is more effective. Now, looking at the book Tested Advertising Methods, let's look at the three major types of successful headlines. The first and easiest is to appeal to people's self-interest. So for example, we have the headline, Retire at 55. This is something people are interested in getting. Number two, we have news. Discovered, a new kind of hand cleaner. News is quite effective. It sounds like a newspaper article. It sounds like something people want to read and get excited about. And lastly, number three, we have curiosity. Lost $35,000. Now, generally speaking, self-interest headlines are the best, while curiosity is generally the worst. This isn't always the case, but it's just much easier to be successful when you're appealing to people's self-interest rather than trying to be clever and witty by arousing curiosity and getting attention and risking people not understanding what exactly it is that you're trying to sell or what your promise is. Another key thing here is, although we can categorize headlines in these three ways, these aren't mutually exclusive. You could theoretically have an ad that focuses on self-interest, also delivers news, and arouses curiosity. Of course, sometimes this requires some level of creative genius. Now, if you're going to factor in all of those threes into a headline, then there are two other qualities that you may want to consider when you're writing headlines. The first is, are you providing a quick, easy way? That's what most people are really looking for. They're somewhat lazy. And number two, are you believable? And the easiest way to be believable is to be specific, as I did in my headline when I mentioned $15,000 and didn't simply say, sell your websites for more or for a ludicrous amount that could never be achievable. And generally, you want to avoid clever copywriting, especially when you're trying to generate quick sales. So this last point comes specifically from me because a lot of the copywriting advice out there, including those from the book Tested Advertising Methods, are really talking about the copywriting, the headlines that are designed to generate short-term sales. But when you're doing long-term copywriting and you're trying to build a brand, there is more room there to be clever because humor is a good way of embedding yourself in people's long-term memory. But when you're trying to persuade them to buy today, tomorrow, and the next month, then you're probably going to be better off with a more logical, rational, clearly understood message. So an example I'd like to call out here, an ad that I feel has some good elements but also some bad elements, is Vancouver ranks in the top 10 rainiest cities in Canada, but we're number one in Ryan Reynolds' heart, Vesey. The part here that I think is trying to be witty is, but we're number one in Ryan Reynolds' heart. I don't think that's particularly effective because I don't think it helps people remember the Vesey brand, and it also doesn't do anything to help Vesey generate short-term sales. Really what that's doing is appealing to Ryan Reynolds' personal brand. So this is often what copywriters think when they're first starting out, is their job is to be clever, to be witty, to use puns, to be creative in this way. That's generally not what your objective is. Your objective is to talk about how people can get what they want, ideally in a quick, easy way, generally speaking. The best headlines are ones that aim at a specific audience. So I did that in my headline, for example, by calling out web designers, and offer that target market something its readers want and want badly. So here's a general 5-step headline formula, and we'll talk about some additional formulas later, but this would be reasonably foolproof. Number 1, identify what the self-interest is and communicate that. Number 2, if there's news, so for example, a new product or a new feature, leverage that and incorporate it. Number 3, avoid merely arousing curiosity. Number 4, avoid the negative/gloomy and instead focus on the cheerful/positive side of what you're communicating. And number 5, offer a quick, easy way to get what you want. Clear-cut formula, very effective. So I want to emphasize this whole point about people wanting a quick, easy way to get what they want. And I saw this ad on Facebook. It's for Calm, an app that I assume is for meditation and relaxation. It says in the headline, if you have anxiety, listen to this for 55 seconds and see what this does to your brain. So you see how that's very quick, that's very easy? Just give me 55 seconds and I'll show you what happens. They're not asking for commitment. They're not asking you to input anything. They're just asking for less than a minute. Here's another example. Give me 5 days and I'll give you a magnetic personality. Let me prove it. Free. Quick, easy way to get a magnetic personality in just 5 days. And it's a guarantee. And it doesn't cost anything. Another thing to consider when you're writing keywords for headlines is to start with one of these. So by starting with one of these keywords, you're already set up for success in your copywriting. You don't necessarily have to do this in every case, but particularly if you're just beginning or you're trying to experiment and generate new ideas for headlines, this is a great place to start. So you could start the headline with the word announcing. Start it with introducing, presenting, new, now. All of those are really conveying news. This is something new and exciting to get attention for. Now, there's another cluster of keywords that we can go with. How to. These are extremely effective. I personally have had a lot of success with these. Now, another key thing that you can do when you write ads is call out the audience. So some examples here. To car owners, to the man, girls with an exclamation mark, sportsmen with an exclamation point, advice to wives. You see that all of those have identified the target audience within the headline, and that's going to get attention. This is a method, a gimmick that I've used a lot as well. Some other keywords to start with. Why, you, yours, this, free. Things that captivate people's attention. So let's take a look at some examples of headlines and try to identify what the keywords or key methods that are being used here. So how to run a web design business and sell websites for $15,000 each. That's simply starting with the keyword how to. I saw this other ad that looks like an article in an online newspaper, and it says, Surrey residents now breezing through customs with Nexus. Now, that specific keyword, Surrey residents, doesn't show up in the list on the left, but it's employing the same method that we use when we say to car owners, to the man, girls, sportsmen, advice to wives. We're calling out Surrey residents. This is something that may appeal to them. Very effective method. Now we have another ad that uses the same approach. It says, attention, course creators. I'm a course creator. This is an ad that would resonate with me. At the very least, it would get my attention.